He stood by the window again. Same time, same view, same girl. Every evening at exactly 8, she walked out of his mansion carrying that same brown bag. The one she never let anyone touch. Tonight, he wasn't watching as her employer. He was watching as a man with questions. And the kind of money that hated unanswered questions. Alexander Gray, billionaire, feared and untouchable. To the world he was power in a suit. To his staff, he was a storm with rules. And to Mira, the quiet maid, he was just Sir. But something about her. The silence, the precision, the mystery. It started to itch at him. He could predict stock markets, but he couldn't predict her. And tonight, as the mansion clock struck 8, Mira picked up the brown bag and whispered, "Good night, sir." He didn't answer. He just watched as the gate swallowed her shadow. Then he made his decision. Tonight he'd follow her. The street outside was empty. His car engine purred softly behind her as rain slicked the road. She didn't turn around, not once. Her steps were light, careful, rehearsed. Like she'd done this 100 times. He followed from a distance, headlights dimmed. Block after block, until the glass buildings turned to rust, and the polished streets turned to mud. His mind kept replaying the last week. The missing diamond cufflink. The vanished watch. And the whispers from the other maids. "She's too quiet, sir. Nobody's that good." He'd brushed them off. Until now. Mira turned down a narrow alley. No lights. No sound. Alexander stopped his car, stepped out, rain tapping his shoulders like warning fingers. He followed on foot. Each step deeper into darkness, each breath sharper. The air smelled of wet dust and old secrets. Then he saw it. Candlelight leaking through the cracks of an old warehouse door. Voices, soft, childish voices. He moved closer. Through a broken window he saw her. Mira. Kneeling in front of a group of children, maybe 15, maybe more, all barefoot, dirty, smiling. She opened the brown bag. Not diamonds. Not stolen watches. Food. Warm bread. Bottled water. Medicine. Books with torn covers. His pulse froze. She was feeding them. She was laughing with them. Her face, usually blank, quiet, was alive, glowing, human. Alexander exhaled. For the first time in years, he didn't know what to say. He could have left. He should have. But something pulled him in, something heavier than curiosity. He pushed the warehouse door open. The laughter died instantly. Children froze. Mira turned. Her eyes widened, lips parted. Rain dripped from his coat as he stepped closer. "Alexander. How long have you been doing this?" Silence. Only the sound of rain hitting the roof. Mira. 2 years. Alexander. With my food? My supplies? She nodded. Yes, sir. His voice sharpened. Do you steal from me? She looked down. No, sir. I only take what your kitchen throws away. What no one wants. The children stared, afraid. Alexander looked around the dim room. Tiny faces, trembling hands clutching bread as if it were gold. Mira. They have no one else. If I don't come, they don't eat. He swallowed hard, anger battling shame. Do you know who I am? He said. Yes, sir. Then why take from me? Mira's voice was steady, soft. Because kindness means nothing when it needs to be seen. Her words hit him harder than any slap could. For a moment he saw himself reflected in her eyes, rich, powerful, hollow. He wanted to yell, to lecture, to demand logic. But there was none. Instead he said quietly, You should have asked. She smiled faintly. And would you have said yes? He didn't answer. Because they both knew the truth. The next morning, the mansion felt colder. He couldn't shake her words. He sat at his desk, staring at numbers that suddenly meant nothing. Mira came in, silent as always, ready to work as if last night never happened. He watched her polish his silver pens, refill his water, straighten his files. A girl who had nothing but gave everything. When she reached for the tray, he said quietly, Sit. She hesitated, confused. He gestured. Please. She sat. He studied her, the quiet strength in her posture, the calm in her eyes. Those children, he said. Who are they? Children from the slums, she replied. Some are orphans. Some ran away. I found them one night. I couldn't leave them. Do they know who feeds them? She shook her head. They just know someone cares. Alexander leaned back. For the first time his office, his empire, felt small. How much does it take to feed them? Her eyes lifted. Enough to fill that bag. That night, she left again, brown bag in hand. But this time she didn't know he'd sent someone ahead. By the time she arrived at the warehouse, the shelves were full. Food, blankets, medicine, and toys. The children screamed in joy. Mira froze. She turned, and there he was, standing in the doorway, not in anger, but in quiet surrender. Alexander. If you're going to feed them, do it properly. Her lips trembled. Sir, he interrupted. No rules. No secrets. Just tell me what they need. Her eyes filled with tears she'd hidden for years. Hope, she whispered. They need hope. He nodded slowly. Then that's what we'll give them. From that night, everything changed. The mansion became quieter. Fewer parties, fewer guests, fewer reasons to show off. But in the slums, laughter began to echo again. Alexander visited often, never in suits, never with cameras. He would sit on broken benches while children ran around him. Mira taught them to read, to sing, to dream again. And as he watched her, he realized something terrifying. For the first time in his life, he wanted to be good. They said the rich man had everything. But no one knew he had nothing until he met a girl with a bag. Because sometimes the people we overlook carry the hearts we lost. Weeks passed, and the mansion that once echoed with silence began to breathe again. Alexander found himself thinking less about profit and more about purpose. Every evening he'd glance at the clock, 8 p.m., and smile. Because he knew exactly where Mira was. Sometimes he followed her still, but not out of suspicion, out of admiration. He would stand at a distance, watching her kneel among those children, her laughter warm and honest. The world had never looked smaller, or more human. But not everyone saw kindness the same way. One night, while Mira distributed food, two men appeared, rough, drunk, and angry. They were local thugs who controlled that neighborhood, collecting fees from the poor just to let them live. One of them kicked over a basket of fruit. Where's our payment, girl? He sneered. You feed them, you pay us. Mira stood her ground. I don't have money, but I have food. He laughed and grabbed her arm. Then maybe we take that bag instead. Before anyone could stop him, a voice thundered from behind. Alexander. Touch her again, and I'll make sure you never see daylight. The thugs turned, saw him standing in the rain, calm but deadly. His security team stepped out of the shadows. Within minutes, they were gone, and the children clapped as if watching a hero from a storybook. But Mira didn't smile. She turned to him, her voice trembling with anger. You shouldn't have come. He frowned. I was protecting you. You made them afraid, she said. Not of right or wrong, but of power. That's not the same thing. Her words cut deep. Again. He sighed. Then teach me. How do you make people better without fear? Mira looked away. You start by being human. That night, Alexander sat in his car for a long time, rain blurring the world outside. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not since his mother, years ago, before he became the man everyone feared. For the first time, he realized what he had built. Walls so high that even his soul couldn't climb them anymore. He closed his eyes and whispered, maybe she's right. Days later, Mira arrived at work to find a letter on the kitchen counter. Take a few days off, it read. You've earned rest. But she couldn't rest, because the warehouse was her heart. So she went there anyway. Only this time, something was different. The old building was gone. In its place stood a new structure, painted white, with blue windows and a sign that read, The Haven, founded by AG and Mira. She froze. Children ran up to her, shouting, laughing, dragging her inside. Inside were beds, a kitchen, a library, even small classrooms. On the wall hung a framed quote. Kindness unseen is still kindness. Tears filled her eyes. Then she saw him, Alexander, standing quietly in the corner, No suit, no guards, just a simple shirt and a soft smile. "You did this," she whispered. He shook his head. "We did this." She stepped closer. "Why?" He looked at her, his voice steady. "Because you reminded me who I was before money made me forget." Over the next months, the haven grew. Alexander visited often, not as a boss, but as a volunteer. He read stories to the children, built shelves, and repaired chairs with his own hands. The city began to whisper again, this time, not about the cold billionaire, but about the changed one. And every rumor led back to the same girl, with the same bag. But peace never lasts forever. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, a fire broke out in a nearby building. Smoke rose fast, flames spreading toward the haven. Mira ran out, shouting for the children to get to safety. Alexander arrived moments later, coughing, eyes red from smoke. He grabbed her hand. "We have to go. There's one more inside," she yelled, breaking free. He followed her in, through choking smoke and collapsing beams, until they found a small boy hiding under a table. Alexander lifted him, but the ceiling above them groaned, splintering. They barely escaped before the roof caved in. Outside, firefighters battled the flames as Mira collapsed on the ground, clutching the child. Alexander knelt beside her, his voice breaking. "You could have died in there." She looked up weakly. "If a life is worth saving, then mine isn't wasted." Her calm even now humbled him. Days later, the fire was out, and the damage minimal. The haven reopened with even stronger walls. Funded by Alexander, but protected by the community. And something inside him changed for good. He sold 2 of his companies, the ones that thrived on greed, and turned their profits into education programs for children like those Mira saved. When the press asked why, he said, "Because no child should depend on miracles to eat." Mira watched him on the news from a distance, proud but quiet. That night, when she left the mansion again with her brown bag, Alexander was waiting by the gate. "Mind if I walk with you?" he asked. She smiled. "Only if you carry the bag." He laughed softly, taking it from her. For the first time, it didn't feel heavy. They say wealth can buy anything, comfort, power, control. But no amount of gold can buy a clean heart. He had spent years counting profits, until one girl made him count people. He once believed the poor wanted his money, but all they ever needed was his humanity. And so every night they walked together. A man who once ruled the city, and the maid who quietly saved it. No headlines, no cameras, no fame, just a shared purpose, to fill every bag with hope. He was rich, powerful, and feared. She was quiet, invisible, and poor. But in the end, she gave him something no money could buy. A reason to live. Because sometimes, the smallest hands carry the biggest hearts. If this story moved you, don't leave without giving it a like. It helps more people find these stories. Comment below. What would you do if you found someone like Mira in your life? And make sure to subscribe. More stories like this are coming soon.